over the transparency mask. Before I begin, just get yourself set up, open up the file from class, and do yourself a favor. I've got this all layered out, so go ahead and just run your mouse along, turn everything else off, and get your transparency menu set up and your gradient menu. So this piece that we're about to do is going to have 3 different elements. It's going to have the background circle. It's going to have a texture on top of the background circle. And then to that texture, we are going to apply a transparency mask. And that transparency mask will have a gradient in it. So here we go. We begin with the circle. We copy the circle. We paste in front. So now we have 2 circles. I am going to fill this circle with a texture. So I'll come down to texture, grain. Now, depending on the grain that you choose, different grains do different things. So I'm going to use, let's see, if I use regular, so I'm up here, I'm grain. See that? Grain. Sprinkles, stippled goes all black and white. So you can try not to get overwhelmed. Let's go with something simple. Let's go with grain, and let's say, I don't know, grain and enlarged, so we can see what we're doing. And we'll hit OK. So now we have 2 circles. We have 1 circle filled with a texture and 1 circle filled with a color. Now, I want 1 more circle. Excuse me. And I'm going to paste in front. And this circle is going to have the gradient in it. So here's my gradient. I'll choose, just for the fun of it, I'll choose a radial gradient. All right? So what we're going to do, we're going to apply this gradient to this texture. And here's how we're going to do it. This time I'm going to cut. So now that gradient is in the clipboard. I've cut it out of the document, but it's being held in the clipboard. I'm going to click on the texture, and I'm going to come over here and say make a mask. The moment I do that, you'll notice that the texture disappears. It's hidden behind this mask. So I'm going to punch a hole in this mask, and what I'm going to use to punch that hole is the gradient in the form of a circle. So I'm here, I click on the mask layer. We're going to move back and forth between these 2 layers. So I click on the mask, and I say again, paste in front. And the moment I do that, you will notice that the gradient now is masking out. There's the texture and there's the gradient, but it's flipped. I don't know if you noticed that when I created my gradient, it was light in the middle and dark on the edges, and this is flipped. What's happening is these white areas are masking out, and these dark areas are masking out, and the light areas are letting the texture show through. That's why I come over here and I invert the mask. And as I do that, I think you can see here's the texture, here's the middle. Now, this is the mask, this is the paint layer. So I'm going to go back to the actual layer and I'm going to say multiply. A number of you in class were having a problem because you were saying, well, I'm clicking and nothing's happening. I'm clicking and I can't seem to get anything. There's nothing in my layers menu. I can't seem to grab anything. And the reason that was happening was because you were on the mask. So make sure you are on this layer. All right? And then, so now I have this. So I've got this masked off texture on top of this circle. As long as I'm on the paint layer, if I decide I want to change the color, I can change the color to whatever I want. That's pretty awful. I'm going to stick blue on blue. I can also, if I switch back to the mask, you'll notice that I can edit the gradient. See that? And that is how you add a transparency mask. So now we have the best of both worlds. I'm going to switch back to my paint layer and turn everything back on. All right, give it a try. Okay, give it a go. And if you're still having trouble with it, we're going to tackle this again when we talk about project number 3.